Hi there, and welcome back to See and Free Studio. This is Jennifer Longyen, and this is where we come to talk about what makes us unique, special, and different. And I'm so excited about our guest today. Nick Lynch has been building solutions for brands to better identify and target audiences online. A cancer survivor and Make-A-Wish kid at an early age, Nick is very passionate about helping nonprofits who were forced into the digital age during COVID. So he started Collidescopeio, an all-in-one social media measurement and data analytics platform for nonprofits. He's going to tell us all about it and how it works. But Collidescope was just named one of the top 5 social tech startups to watch in 21. Congratulations, Nick, and welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thank you. Good for having me.
Yeah, so I'm so glad you were able to join me today. You and I have gotten to know each other a little bit through our shared commitment and passion for Make-A-Wish. So glad that you could join me today. And Nick, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, where you live, where you're hanging out these days, and what you're up to.
Yeah, so I'm based here in Los Angeles. My story's kind of interesting. From a professional background, I've been based here in Los Angeles. I'm from the Bay Area, but I've been based here in Los Angeles for almost 16 years now, which is kind of crazy. But primarily focused in building advertising solutions for advertisers and brands to better target their audiences on social and digital media. It's really been my whole entire professional career. But from a personal standpoint, I'm a cancer survivor. I'm a Make-A-Wish kid, like you mentioned, and I've been really, really close with the Make-A-Wish organization ever since they granted my wish and sent me to Disneyland, and have really sort of been at the front seat in sort of this interesting intersection between where brands are going in terms of putting real dollars and real investment in from a social impact perspective, but also seeing the many shifts and the challenges on the nonprofit side, but also the opportunities given the right tools and solutions to really kind of build a bridge between the two worlds and figure out how collaboratively they can work together.
It's very cool. And so you started Collidescopeio. Explain a little bit about, what you do with the platform and how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's sort of one of those fun, pandemic stories. We literally launched this right at the beginning of COVID last year, right around at the end of March, early April. So really, really right in the really beginning of all this. And what we saw is that from a nonprofit perspective, there was going to be tremendous headwinds going into the rest of the year of last year, and even moving forward in terms of how nonprofits are going to be generating revenue and awareness without being able to do in-person events. And so what we were trying to do at the very beginning of this is really figure out how do we, from a nonprofit side, provide the right tools and solutions that were accessible to nonprofits to get them really up to speed from a digital and a social media perspective, and help them understand the opportunities on social media and utilizing social media influencers. And on the brand side, brands have been getting involved in social impact and cause marketing for a very, very long time. But the challenge is that there isn't a lot of solutions or areas where they can get a really good insight or transparency into what the downstream investments are doing for the causes. So they may understand sort of from a high level what their social impact is, initiatives are doing from a reach or an awareness perspective, but they don't really know, are those actually driving real donations or real volunteers? And so what we do is we sort of serve as that true bridge, sit in the middle, and we connect nonprofits, brands, and social media influencers where there's vision and value alignment. And then once those collaborations and partnerships are discovered, we support them on social media and help them launch campaigns collaboratively and together. And then we provide holistic marketing and mission measurement so that not only can we see what those collaborations and partnerships do on a marketing side, how well did this campaign hit a reach goal or an engagement goal or an awareness goal, but also downstream, did this partnership actually drive increased visits to the mission's website, increased donations to the mission, volunteer registration, whatever the main KPIs will be, but essentially provide that sort of two-sided holistic view of social impact marketing.
That's fantastic. And I really appreciate what you're trying to do, because having been involved with a few nonprofits, I think we take for granted just how much of even just the fundraising and awareness is events-based. And I mean, that can take months upon months and complete staffs to try to organize just to kind of make the bank, so to speak, and be able to support the cause. And I love that you're bringing a lot of these nonprofits into the digital age and helping them connect with big brands that want to support them, but also figure out what the impact is that they're making. So such important work. I am a big fan, and I can't wait to get more involved, actually. You and I need to talk about how to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So Nick, the show here is all about what makes you unique, special, and different. And, I want to share people's stories with the world and give them the platform to talk about, what drives them, what fuels them, what wakes you up every day. So I'd love to hear from your perspective, what's your USD?
Yeah, it's funny because I forever, people in my life have been shocked that I was a cancer survivor or that I was a wish kid. It's never really been sort of a part of my identity or made me who I was, partially just because I've never really used it as maybe like a crutch or a negative aspect. But it really wasn't until I started building Kaleidoscope and thinking about how I can actually use my experience and really be able to be almost a channel for how positive outcomes happen when nonprofit missions are able to execute sort of at like full throttle, to where I really feel like where my sort of superpower is and where my USD is really around understanding the true power of a mission. And we always like to say is, Jen, like what the power of a wish is, but really being able to channel and embody the outcomes, the positive outcomes of a nonprofit mission, and really figure out how do we amplify those and utilize my experience and my knowledge to really bring all of it together to amplify and accelerate the powerful, missions and opportunities of so many nonprofits, not just Make-A-Wish. I'm a little biased, but all nonprofits that are doing such tremendous and really important work on so many different fronts all over the world. And so I feel like kind of my USD is I'm able to speak multiple languages on multiple different sort of sectors, depending on who we talk to, but really I'm able to bring everybody to the table, really bridge the gaps and help collaboratively push things and missions forward.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. Nick, for you, like you talked about, you started Kaleidoscope, and that's when this hit you that you needed to bring your own kind of personal experience to bear in working with these nonprofits. Was there a moment that hit you, that how powerful that could be, or an impact that you saw happen that said, all right, I got to bring my story to light in order to connect, the mission to what these organizations are trying to do?
Yeah, it's interesting. We sort of joke in that, my wife always says, like, you never pull the cancer card, right? Like, I've never pulled the cancer card my whole entire life. And I pull it now every single day, not because it's something that I want to shed light on about a negative aspect of my life. But I found that when I started to share my experience and what I had been through and where our vision is sort of powered from, it's disarming. I think when people think about, do you want to help nonprofits and there's money involved and you're going to be making money and building things, I think there's a lot of things around, well, where is your heart at and where are you really coming from? And I built this business because I've seen how powerful outcomes can be for a nonprofit. Like I'm a living proof of it. So I really saw that as I was starting to, I guess, pitch this opportunity and pitch this business and pitch the technology that we were building, I really saw that it didn't have the context or the depth until I really was able to pretty much make it my story and my own, and this is how I'm powering it. And I think that's the more that I have been doing this now. It's almost, it'll be 2 years, in March of 2021. It's really the technology version of me and my story. And I don't think it would have been as successful or people would have been as open to hearing what we're doing and why we're doing it without infusing my story behind it.
So let me ask you, in doing that, and I don't know if that was an intimidating process for you to kind of get to that place and that comfortability, but I know a lot of people struggle with that. They think, I can't talk about my authentic self, or be completely who I want to be. And I hear it all the time. I can't bring my full self to work, or I can't share the things that make me who I am, because there's that there's risk to that. I mean, how do you help people overcome that internal conversation they're having with themselves to say it's okay? Actually, it could make you stronger.
Yeah, it's tough, and it's ongoing, especially when you have a history of cancer, and being able to think through, what that meant to you and how that impacted you and your family, and how it has changed your life and the trajectory of who you are. And I think that where I've found strength and empowerment in this story is the things that we're able to do with it, and the good that we're able to bring, and the people that want to collaborate and connect because of it. And I think that it just takes one time. It's really scary to share it, but it just takes one time for you to say your story, or to tell your story, and to see people connect with it, and to see positive outcomes happen. And they don't even need to be big. They just need to be some small piece of a positive outcome, where then you start to build the confidence and really start to build the building blocks of, oh, wow, this actually is empowering, and there is value to me sharing who I am and what my story is. And over time, it becomes sort of like the pebble to an avalanche type of thing, where now it really is who you are. You feel comfortable about communicating what it is, and it's just a freight train with no stop after that point.
Yeah, well, yes, it is. And I want more people to have those moments, because I think you're right. It's just, you don't have to go big. Just take the first step, and put it out there, and tell your story, and then see how the impact it has on people. I think we've all found ourselves in some shared circumstances, especially through this pandemic. And there's real power in sharing what you're going through, and realizing there's a lot of other people out there that get it, and have that empathy, and have shared experiences as well. So, Nick, I mean, now you're working with all of these different nonprofits. How are you seeing your USD come to life, and helping those groups, drive their cause?
Yeah, no, it's been super exciting. I mean, to date we've raised over $1 million for over 24 nonprofits, which has been fantastic, and we're super excited to accelerate that, and do so much more next year. And what's been really exciting is watching what I think, and you've probably seen this, Jen, in your work with nonprofits, is that like a lot of the challenges that nonprofits faces from a marketing perspective, or not getting into social or digital media, is that there's a fear tied to it. We've always been doing one thing, and we've been doing okay doing this thing. I don't really have the time or the resources to test something new, especially if it's not going to have the big outcomes that I want. And so what we're now seeing is that the pandemic is sort of, slick the skids, so to speak, in terms of like, I got to try something new. And now lots of nonprofits and brands are trying new things to try to reach new people and get their audiences more aware, and build community on many different platforms. And so what's been really exciting to me is seeing I guess almost the lack of fear of people really wanting to try new things, and seeing those things work. And then now having the conversations about, okay, how do we actually scale this? We did something sort of on a small test. It did fantastic, way better than expectations. How do we 4X it, 7X it, 10X it over the next 1 year, 2 years? And so that's been the most exciting thing for us, is to convince to do the tests, to work together to execute those tests, and then now start to scale them as we go into the new year. So that's been by far our most, proud and really humbling experiences, working with all these great people.
Yeah. And do you think this adoption, is going to take a little while? I mean, how far off are we from a lot of these organizations seeing the benefit of utilizing these tools in this way?
Sure. I think if you were to ask me that question prior to COVID and prior to the pandemic, I would have said another 5 years, another 10 years, maybe. I mean, and look, if you were to ask nonprofits before COVID, they would have told you that they admittedly are maybe 10 to 20 years behind in marketing still, but they've had a process that has worked, and they've used it over time, and they're going to continue to do that. Now that COVID is here and it's real, and we've kind of seeing sort of light at the end of the tunnel, and now we're starting to think what life means past COVID. I think adoption it happened so fast because of COVID. People were switching to virtual galas and virtual events, and utilizing influencers and streamers, and doing charity streams, and all these amazing things. And so I think we're now where it was 5 or 10 years. Now we're in it, and now we're probably a year or two away from really seeing people accelerate and scale the things that we're doing. I mean, just last year alone, this is what they documented. I'm sure it was way higher than this, but something like $90 million was raised using esports and streamers last year. So I
Wow.
mean, it's accelerate. Like St. Jude is a great use case and a case study in adoption, early adoption, building online communities, and really accelerating and diving in deep. I mean, they own that space when it comes to creating community and involving really amazing people and activating an audience that's really engaged. And so yeah, we're here, which is really exciting.
Well, we'll have to make sure that we drive more of these nonprofits to you to get help there, because I think you're right. We're past the point of convincing people it's needed. It's now a matter of just getting on board, giving it a try, and then making it sustainable and scalable as you grow. And hopefully you see a lot of big wins and all of the kind of attention you're getting to your nonprofit. So I'm really excited, Nick, because I've known you those 2 years, and that's a lot of amazing impact you've had in just a short time.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's been really fun.
So there's a point in my show where I ask somebody a random question, and you get to choose between 1 and 25, and that dictates which question you get. So do you have a number, a favorite number between 1 and 25?
22.
All right,
Sounds
that's my
good.
dad's favorite. He loves that number. Everything is 22.
It's a great number.
It is. If you could be the hero in one of your favorite movies, who would you be and why?
Wow, that is a great question. I'm a sort of a nerd and kind of a geek. I love The Matrix.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And yeah, and there's something about and maybe just because I was always kind of a quiet kid. And I mean, me as sort of the extrovert, Make-A-Wish kid, but I am actually painfully introverted in most other situations. And so I think with Neo and the way that the Matrix sort of rolled out for him is that he is this guy who really didn't know his internal power and the abilities that he had. It was this really quiet dude, and it took a lot of challenges and trials to get his real power out there. And I by no means can I stop bullets or fly like he does, but I think that I can kind of relate in terms of like it takes some shaking and some rattling and some really hard things to get your superpower out there. And so I'd probably relate closest, or I would want to be closest to Neo. I think that's probably where I would go. Sounds really nerdy, but that's probably me.
I love it. I'm nerdy, so I get it. I think there's a new Matrix film coming out, isn't there? Like soon.
There is. I think it's in a couple of weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's I guess worth putting on the mask to go to the theaters and watch it.
Yes. Yeah.
I've been joking about trying to get my kids to watch it and see the old ones and see if they can really appreciate the storyline. But I don't know if they're ready for it. But that's such an important self-awareness too on the what it takes to come out of your shell and put yourself in different situations and build your confidence. I actually am an introvert too. Nobody believes me when I say that. But I love one-on-one conversations, but you put me in small groups and I just kind of shriek and want to go in the corner. And so I think it's really powerful to recognize that that's how you feel, and that you got to keep putting yourself in these uncomfortable situations and build up your confidence, because it's just the reality that we all live in, that we need to relate to each other.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, Nick, we've talked already a little bit about your story, and I got to hear it a couple of years ago, being on the board of Make-A-Wish. That you were a Wish kid and what it did for you and your family, and helping you through probably one of the most challenging times in your young life. I would love for you to share why Make-A-Wish is important to you and why you want to support them today.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're sick and when you're a kid, those things are really tough. Not only, I mean, definitely for you, but your family in particular. I mean, I was 3, so I remember vividly that time, and it requires so much of you and your family going through those different times. And being a parent now, I cannot imagine what my parents went through. But when I think through my time when I was sick, which is crazy because at 3 years old, I remember so many things vividly. Almost all of my memories are my actual wish, getting into a limo and calling I think it was my grandparents on the phone and having my first flight from San Francisco to LA and going to Disneyland and seeing the fireworks. I mean, it takes a humongously just out of this world experience to shift you and your family's mindset and experience of being sick to sort of to normal. It really totally shifts your sort of frame of mind and your family's frame of mind. And I 100% credit that for really making sure that my cancer story wasn't one that I used as a crutch for why things weren't going my way, or things were a certain way when they shouldn't have been. I feel like I had a normal childhood. I did not even really know how serious my illness and my cancer was until I think it was like 6 or 7 years ago when I was really interested to read more about it. And so I asked to get all the medical records. But I 100% credit Make-A-Wish for really powering my family and I through that tremendously challenging time, and really, course correcting what is a very scary time to kind of transitioning back to thinking past it. And so it definitely helps the child and the family, which I think they are tandem in that experience, power forward.
And I want to, emphasize that point just in being part of Make-A-Wish and hearing your story and the story of so many other children. It's just that wish gives kids hope, and when perhaps they don't feel it, it gives their families hope that something is possible, that if you really want something, it is possible. And that in itself can have such an amazing effect on their physical well-being and their mental well-being and emotional well-being. And I've seen it firsthand now being a part of the organization, learning about your story. And I just love, Nick, that you are giving back so much to this organization so many years later in your life, because I know you are one of our most active in our community. And here in Los Angeles alone, we have over 700 kids waiting for wishes. So every single dollar matters. So we'll show the link again at the end of the show, and you can easily, if you're watching this on YouTube, snap a photo of the QR code and go right to the site and donate. You can always look it up online, Make-A-Wish, and obviously tell them that Nick sent you. He has been a major supporter of the organization and wants to help other kids who have been going through tough times. Nick, I would love to hear what's next for you and what's up with Collidescope.io. What's in the works?
Yeah, I mean, so moving into 2021, it's sort of two key focuses for us. One is really look into how do we scale our brand presence and how do we really become a thought leader and a partner for corporations, for brands to accelerate their CSR, their corporate social responsibility initiatives, or their environmental, social, and governance initiatives, so that it's measurable from a marketing perspective. It's one thing to execute things like a reduction in carbon or plastics and some of those other things, which are fantastic, or focus on DEI or equity in your business, in your company. But it's another thing to communicate those values and to really affect change publicly and globally. And so, a big focus for us next year, or one of our main focuses, is becoming more of a thought leader and a partner for the corporation and the brand side to accelerate or to scale those initiatives. And the other focus for us is kind of again, I guess we're bridge builders, and I feel like a broken record because we're talking a lot about building the bridge or being the bridge, but we do believe that as we start to expand and scale internationally, that being the bridge between different countries, whether it be one of the big countries we're working with is India right now, and figuring out how do we scale opportunities for India or Indian-based nonprofits and causes, but utilize Indian American and their influence here in the United States to start bridging those opportunities. There's businesses in India that would love to break into the United States market, and there's a humongous Indian American influencer and musicians and esports community here that has humongous ties to those communities back home or their families' communities back home. And so leveraging those sort of bilateral opportunities and scaling those and measuring those are a big focus for us as we think about what international looks like for us moving forward. So those are like the two key things that we're trying to drive as we move into 2022.
That's great. And so we're going global. I love it.
We're going global.
We're going global. I like it. So if somebody is interested in learning more about Collidescope.io, Nick, do they just look you up and contact you and see how they can get involved, either on a brand, an influencer that wants to get involved, or a nonprofit?
Yeah, email me. I keep it simple. It's nick@Collidescope.io. So you can check us out on our website. You can email me directly, and yeah, let's make some good things happen together, especially as we move into the new year.
Wonderful. Well, I will ask all my guests from around the world to please support Nick and Collidescope.io and all the work he's doing. It's fabulous. Nick, I have so enjoyed getting to know you over the last couple of years. I look forward to continuing to work with you on the Make-A-Wish mission, and I wish you a ton of success.
Thank you so much, Jen. I appreciate it.
Well, everyone, that's going to be a wrap of this week's episode of seeandfreestudio.com. Please visit us at seeandfreestudio.com. You can come to YouTube, you can come to Spotify, anywhere you can find us. We're here every week. Thanks, everyone.